Husband of former Tory peer admits making millions from COVID-era contracts, and MPs are going to be getting pay rise. That and more on this week's news headlines. Hey, my name is Katie. Welcome to my channel. This is where we discuss true crime, current affairs and politics. This is our weekly roundup of some of the news headlines that caught my eye this week. So stick around to hear my uneducated and unsolicited opinions. Please remember to like the video and subscribe to my channel so you never miss an update. And I'd also like to know your opinions on the following topics that we're going to discuss today. The first one story I wanted to cover today. Women's rights activist Julia Parsi freed from Taliban prison. Julia Parsi, a women's rights activist, senior member of the spontaneous women's protest movement and founder of the Women's Library, was released from prison on Monday, December the 18th. This is on the Karma Press news agency. You can find links for all the stories in the description below. According to the source, Miss Julia Parsi was released on bail from the Taliban administration after nearly 3 months of incarceration and has returned home. A number of women's rights activists have also confirmed her release from the prison, because you can't always trust what the Taliban say. A former Afghan government's House of Representatives member wrote on their Twitter account, "I am sure that prison has strengthened her and her comrades' will to fight." Julia Parsi, a leading women's rights activist, was arrested in Kabul on the 28th of September, causing widespread public dismay. Having avoided formal education during the Taliban's initial reign, Julia was detained for her advocacy nearly 23 years later under the Taliban's second rule on charges stemming from her activism. A native of Takhar province, Julia dedicated many years to teaching Persian language and literature in local schools. Her teaching mission continued in Kabul until the city's fall on August 15, 2021. The closure of the schools she worked at following this event marked a turning point, fueling her advocacy efforts. With the Taliban's ascent to power, Julia's name became synonymous with bravery in the face of adversity. She became a well-known figure in protests where she and other women stood unarmed on the streets of Kabul, facing armed Taliban forces and voicing their demands for freedom. In a climate of increasing fear, with reports of her fellow protesters in bulk, facing disappearance or death, Julia remained visible in the media. She boldly spoke out about the fundamental rights of women to education and work, becoming a symbol of resistance. Julia Parsi fighting for basic human rights for women. I mean, the fact that this is still happening in 2023, almost 2024, is alien to me. I mean, I've covered the Taliban before. I did a whole episode when it was the anniversary of them taking charge. And yeah, most of it's the West's fault. America and the UK went storming in, got what they wanted, left, and just left the Taliban to just literally take over. But with people like this, there is hope. All she wants is for women and girls to have basic human rights. It's not hard. What are the Taliban so scared of? Why are educated women a fear for the Taliban regime? Let me know what you think about this one. Because it then flows on to this next story, where the Taliban are imprisoning women for their own protection from gender-based violence, according to a UN report. And this is reported on the CBS News website. Afghans Afghanistan's ruling Taliban regime has sent some women to prison to protect them from the threat of gender-based violence, a United Nations report released on Thursday has said. Taliban authorities told the UN assistance mission in Afghanistan that women who don't have a male relative to stay with or whose male relatives are deemed a threat to their safety have been sent to prison. It was unclear if the orders were based on court referrals. I have thoughts, but I'm going to try and keep them to the end of this particular article. Some Taliban de facto officials stated that in instances where they had safety concerns for a survivor, she would be sent to the women's prison for her protection, akin to how prisons have been used to accommodate drug addicts and homeless people in Kabul. Confinement of women in prison facilities outside the enforcement of criminal law and for the purpose of ensuring their protection from gender-based violence would amount to an arbitrary, I can't say that word, deprivation of liberty, according to the UN mission. They added that confining women who are already in a situation of vulnerability in a punitive environment would also likely have a negative impact on their mental and physical health, re-victimization, and put them at risk of discrimination and stigmatization upon release. The report is a snapshot of legal and judicial responses by the Taliban to complaints of gender-based violence against women and girls from August 21 until March 23, including murders, honor killings, and rapes. Sorry, but YouTube doesn't think we're adults. The report reveals a stark absence of a clear and coherent framework for justice in Afghanistan, significantly hindering the process of reporting and addressing gender-based violence. Sahar Wahidi, a tech startup CEO and women's rights activist, told CBS News, this ambiguity, particularly with the Taliban's vague reference to Sharia law, places an immense burden on women, making the act of reporting a dangerous risk due to uncertain outcomes and potential blame. Since taking control of Afghanistan more than 2 years ago, the Taliban have severely limited the rights of women and girls through draconian policies barring them from schools, universities, and many professions. Girls are not allowed to attend school beyond the 6th grade, and women aren't permitted to travel outside their homes without male chaperones. A crackdown on freedom of expression and the hugely limited employment opportunities for Afghan women since the Taliban's retaking of power in 2021 have left them increasingly stuck behind closed doors, making them more vulnerable to gender-based violence, according to the UN. In the 2 decades after the 2001 US-led invasion that toppled the previous Taliban regime, safe houses for vulnerable women and children opened in various provinces across the country, operated by non-governmental organisations. But they have been all shut down because the Taliban considers the shelters manifestations of Western society, according to the UN report. The chief Taliban spokesman told CBS News he was not aware of any incident or report of someone being imprisoned in the country without a crime being committed, and said he would investigate the UN report. The de facto Taliban government's Ministry of Foreign Affairs told the UN it was dedicated to safeguarding the lives and property of all people. The handling of cases is based on Sharia law, and there is no injustice committed against women, the ministry told the UN. If the severity of the case is high, there will be no mediation and the case is referred to the court. However, many of the Taliban's directives regarding women and girls in Afghanistan lack a foundation in Sharia law. Women who don't have a male relative to stay with. How dare they? How dare they live on their own? Or live with other women? They could collude and overthrow the government because they were so evil. Sorry. Or those whose male relatives are deemed a threat to their safety. Then why aren't you doing anything about the aggressive male? Question. And in regards to having a negative impact on their mental and physical health, and to put them at risk of discrimination when they get released, the community could potentially disown them. And anyway, when they are released, are they then put into the same dangerous situation that they were in before? Or has the dangerous situation been resolved? And gender-based violence since the Taliban took over, because women are subject to harsher punishments than men for the same crimes. Honor killings, absolute fucking bullshit. No one will ever convince me that this... No, I'm sorry, no. The Taliban do not represent Islam. They do not represent the Muslim community. At least not the Muslim community I know. Like, no, fuck right off with your honor killings. I didn't realise I was going to get that angry. And Sharia law, some of it makes women property. Sharia law, women are nothing more than a thing to be owned and controlled. Which is why the Taliban can say that it was dedicated to safeguarding the lives and property of all people, because under Sharia law, women are property. And I was aware of the situation in regards to the lack of education. They're not allowed outside the house unless they have a male chaperone. They shouldn't work unless necessary and in only certain areas. I need to get off this story now because it's driving me around the bend. But let me know your comments, opinions below. Please be respectful. Again, I reiterate, the Taliban do not represent Islam. They do not represent the wider Muslim community. The Taliban are their own little group of people who Hamas helped, by the way, or the other way around. I can't remember. I think the Taliban helped. They helped each other. I can't remember which way around. But next story that we're going to go on. This is in the Politico. Husband of former Tory peer admits making millions from COVID-era contract. Michelle Mone, remember her? We spoke about her, I think it was last week, had previously lied about her involvement with husband Doug Barrowman's company PPE Med Pro. They've actually called her a liar. Oh, that's not me. Don't sue me. I mean, you can sue me. I have no money. But that's not me. That's them. Because she has become very litigious over the past few weeks. Funny that. A former Conservative peer. So has she actually like gone? That passed me by. Okay. A former Conservative peer's husband admitted on Sunday that he made millions of pounds from government contracts for personal protective equipment during the COVID-19 pandemic. In an interview with the BBC on Sunday, Michelle Mone, an entrepreneur who was ennobled by former Prime Minister David Cameron, I have opinions on him, admitted that she lied to the media about her involvement with her husband, Doug Barrowman's company, PPE MedPro, because she wanted to protect her family from press intrusion. Then you shouldn't have done it in the first place. Michelle Mone is currently taking a leave of absence from Parliament, which means she does not attend sittings or debates and cannot claim an allowance. Her husband admitted he led the PPE MedPro consortium, despite no record of his connection being recorded on Companies House. The UK government revealed in 2021 that Michelle Mone had been the source of referral for PPE MedPro to a so-called VIP lane, set up to allow referrals of potential suppliers from MPs, peers, ministers and senior officials in the scramble to procure masks and gowns at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. Lawyers acting for Michelle Mone repeatedly claimed to the Guardian newspaper that she was not connected to PPE MedPro in any capacity. Mone admitted that she did stand to benefit from around 60 million pounds of profit that her husband made on the PPE MedPro contracts to supply medical gear during the pandemic. Quote, if my husband passes away before me, then I am a beneficiary, as well as his children and my children, she told the BBC of the financial trusts where the profits from the contract are held. Quote, I did make an error in saying to the press that I wasn't involved, Mone added. Not a lie, it's an error. The UK government is now suing PPE MedPro for breach of contract and unjust enrichment, after millions of gowns the company supplied were never used. The couple is also being investigated by the National Crime Agency. Michelle Mone insists, I don't honestly see there is a case to answer. I can't see what we have done wrong. That's the problem. Barrowman told the BBC he had made 30% profit, around £60 million, on 2 contracts worth £202 million, but insisted the risks were absolutely extraordinary. This Michelle Mone business just keeps on giving. It's messy. I don't really understand why she's there in the House of Lords anyway. I mean, yeah, she's an entrepreneur. She made money. She got money. But I don't think that's enough of a reason for someone to be sat in the House of Lords. But then again, the House of Lords is corrupt as fuck, in my opinion. Trigger warning, we're going to be discussing the transporting of people for consensual relations. Again, I can't be an adult on YouTube. So, the owner of Cornhub, one of the world's largest adult content websites, has admitted to profiting from naughty transporting and agreed to make payments to women whose videos were posted without their consent, federal prosecutors in New York announced on Thursday. This is from CBS News. ALO Holdings, the website's parent company, as in the Corn website, reached a deferred prosecution agreement to resolve a charge of engaging in unlawful monetary transactions involving naughty transporting proceeds, according to the Office of Brian Peace, U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of New York. The deal calls for the Montreal-based company to pay more than $1.8 million to the US government, as well as make separate payments to the individual women harmed. It also requires the appointment of an independent monitor for 3 years, after which the charges will be dismissed. Quote, it is our hope that this resolution, which includes certain agreed payments to the women whose images were posted on the company's platforms and an independent monitorship, brings some measure of closure to those negatively affected, according to Peace, the US Attorney for the Eastern District of New York. James Smith, head of the FBI's New York office, said that ALO Holdings knowingly enriched itself by turning a blind eye to victims who told the company they had been deceived and coerced into the videos. Prosecutors said the ALO company has agreed to pay victims compensation, but details such as who is eligible and how they can apply will be forthcoming. The charge stemmed from the company's role in hosting videos and accepting payments from Girls Do Corn. Operators of that now defunct adult film production company were charged and eventually convicted of a range of naughty transporting crimes, including coercing young women into engaging in naughty acts on camera that were then posted on the Corn website and other adult sites without their consent. Prosecutors say that between 2017 and 2020, ALO received money that company officials knew or should have known was derived from naughty trafficking operations. God damn it, I said the word. They also say the company didn't act swiftly or thoroughly enough to remove all the non-consensual videos, even after a number of women appealed directly to the company. ILO operates free and paid adult websites where content providers can post and distribute adult videos, with ILO generating revenue through licensing agreements, advertisements, and subscriptions. According to prosecutors, the company received more than $100,000 from Girls Do Corn, as well as roughly $764,000 in payments from advertisers attributable to the production company. ILO Holdings, which was formerly known as MindGeek, said in a statement that it deeply regrets hosting content from Girls Do Corn on its streaming video platforms. ILO said Girls Do Corn provided the company with written consent forms purportedly signed by the women, but that it was unaware the forms were obtained through fraud and coercion. The company also said prosecutors did not find ILO or its affiliates violated any federal criminal laws prohibiting naughty transporting or the naughty exploitation of minors. ILO is not pleading guilty to any crime, and the government has agreed to dismiss its charge against the company after 3 years, subject to the company's continued compliance with the Deferred Prosecution Agreement. Thursday's agreement, filed in federal court in Brooklyn, comes after the European Union announced that Cornhub and 2 other major corn sites would be required to verify the age of their users, expanding the reach of the Digital Services Act designed to keep people safe on the internet. Now, I have no issue with films about corn as long as everything is consensual. You do you, boo. People underage are legally unable to provide their consent, therefore it cannot be consensual for minors. No shade on anyone that watches any consensual things. No shade on you. You do you, boo. Again, as long as it's all consensual. But yeah, the website has got some questions to answer still, I think. But they've made an agreement. Fine. We'll see where this goes. So this is from the Canary. And the UK is breaching UN rules on people's access to justice. Not worrying at all, is it? Campaigners have criticised the Scottish Civil Justice Council for its lack of transparency in undertaking a review of legal expenses after Scotland and the rest of the UK breached the UN's so-called Aarhus Convention rules on this. Sadly, there has been barely any murmur in the corporate media. In July 2022, the Scottish Civil Justice Council, with oversight of Scotland's civil justice system, was tasked by the Scottish Government to review illegal expenses, according to court rules. This is required because Scotland is in breach of the UN Aarhus Convention's access to justice requirements. Scotland must meet the recommendations set by the governing bodies so that legal expenses are not prohibitively expensive by October the 1st, 2024. I have thoughts. The Aarhus Convention enshrines citizens' rights to defend the environment in a court of law. Article 9 of the Convention requires that access to the courts is fair, equitable, timely, and not prohibitively expensive. The United Kingdom ratified the Convention in 2005. However, the UK is in breach of the Aarhus Convention's access to justice requirements and only has 1 year left to meet the recommendations set by the governing bodies so that citizens can uphold their right to a healthy environment and use legal mechanisms to hold public bodies and polluters to account. The UN Progress Report on its action plan published on the 1st July 2022 was supposed to outline progress towards achieving full compliance by the deadline of 1st of October 2024. Yet environmental campaigners from the RSPB, Friends of the Earth and the Environmental Rights Centre for Scotland criticised the lack of progress and only vague commitments. RSPB Scotland have said the UK's first progress report confirms that the Scottish Government and other UK administrations have made negligible progress on making legal action more affordable for people and environmental NGOs following the committee's findings in 2010. In fact, in England and Wales, there have been targeted efforts to make the process of judicial review less accessible for those wanting to rely on it as a measure of a last resort. Scotland itself is obliged to ensure that its legal system is compliant with the Convention. But this is only possible if access to justice is accessible and affordable. Under Scotland's current court costs regime, legal expenses can often run into tens of thousands of pounds. Campaigners have argued that the current system of protective expenses orders remains unaffordable and unfair and requires radical overhaul, but fear that without wider input and public scrutiny, reforms will be weak and inadequate. The Environmental Rights Centre for Scotland previously submitted a Freedom of Information request seeking details of the review of court rules and was informed that there would be a consultation on the revised rules later in 2023. Last month, November, the Environmental Rights Centre for Scotland followed up with another Freedom of Information request seeking details of the public consultation. The Scottish Civil Justice thing have responded that there will be no consultation for new rules for the Court of Session to avoid undue resource impacts for potential respondents, but new rules will be enacted in spring 2024. So the environmental people have now written to the justice people, asking them to reconsider producing new rules without a consultation. The SCJC is tasked with making court rules compliant with the Aarhus Convention. Article 8 of the Convention requires effective public participation in the preparation of those rules. The SCJC has decided to exclude the public from participating in its review. The process intended to resolve non-compliance instead looks likely to result in a further breach of the Convention. We are concerned that the SCJC is planning to worsen Scotland's already poor compliance record. Ooh! That's from a solicitor at the environmental people thing. And when I say Scotland, I probably mean the UK. I don't remember I actually wrote this in a blog post or not. But when we had the opportunity to vote to remain or leave the European Union, I voted to remain. And my reason voting remain was because I do not trust the UK government, and I have been proven correct. The idea that, I could take it to all the courts in the land and the UK government can just ignore it, override it like they have with other things that they have taken to court, and the court has said, no, you can't do that. And then the UK government have made rules, new laws saying that they can. I have nowhere else to go if I was to carry on. We have nowhere else to go now. We have gone to the highest court in the land in regards to various things. When I say we, I mean the country. Like, people smock to them, me. They've gone to the highest court in the land to say, no, you can't do this. And the court have said, no, you can't do this. You're being a dick. And the UK government have continued to be a dick and create new laws so that they can do the thing that they wanted to do in the first place. But we can no longer go to the EU courts. That's why I wanted to remain in the European Union. It was a backup plan for what I saw as the blatant corruption of the UK government. In my opinion. Don't sue me, I have no money. So it's coming to fruition. I said I wanted to stay in the EU because I don't trust our government. And I want the opportunity to take them to the highest court in Europe, never mind the highest court in the UK, because clearly they could just override it like they have been doing. And I'm going to stop with this story. This one got me a little bit angry because, again, they are right. No one's reporting on it. But we're going to end on this one. This is cute. Because, we've had some horrible stories today. Happy Christmas. I've made everyone press, but a rhino has found love at first sight when he's matched to help save a species. I'm going to post the video link in the description because I've got a funny feeling that if I would play it on here, I might get screwed over. But this is from the News Network. A black rhino looks like it has found a mate in time for the holidays and in time to help save a species. The 4-year-old, which was born on Christmas Eve in 2019, has just reached maturity after being moved from a zoo in Michigan to a newly designed home in California. Newly captured videos from the triumphant day when Charlie was first introduced to Nia, a female black rhino from the Cleveland Zoo, that was also moved following a matchmaking appeal from the Association of Zoo and Aquarium Species Survival Plan. The first interactions are precious but also critical. African black rhinos are classified as critically endangered, and the pair's new caretakers at the Living Desert Zoo and Gardens are devoutly committed to the conservation of the species. This first introduction between Charlie and Nia is the culmination of 4 years of habitat design, research and construction to build a perfect home for this pair of endangered black rhinos, said Alan Monroe, the zoo's president. The California team hopes that with a little luck and after a 15-month pregnancy, they will have at least one more to add to the species' diminished numbers. The animal matchmaking experts behind the species survival plan knew that this particular female and male were underrepresented genetically in the population and needed to get together. And the new rhino savanna in the Palm Desert Zoo would be a prime environment for procreation. Black rhinos are solitary by nature. The general thought is that absence makes the heart grow fonder. So we had Charlie on one side of the habitat and Nia on the other. They can see each other, Monroe told People, I assume magazine. Female rhinos have a short reproductive period, 3 days out of the month. So caretakers will time their interactions for that peak breeding time. Quote, our fingers are crossed that sometime in the coming year, these introductions will result in a pregnancy and a bouncing baby rhino. With his 4th birthday coming on Christmas Eve, Charlie, pronounced Jolly, now they tell me, couldn't have received a better gift. And the video is on Instagram, so I will post it in the description. You can go watch it. So Charlie and Nia, they need to hurry up and get it on. You know, no pressure, but it's entirely up to you to save your species. But oh, isn't that cute? Love at first sight when they're matched. Oh, I thought we would end on a cute one. I do like to end on something a bit more light-hearted because I normally cover miserable stories, but today was very miserable. I apologise. If you've got this far, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Come follow me on TikTok and Twitter. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment below and let me know what story it is you're talking about because I will forget. I do have a video due to upload on Christmas Day. Only a little one, a brief history of Christmas, and it wasn't started by the Christians. So if you're intrigued, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell on that particular video because it is ready to go. Just got to wait till Christmas Day. It's a Christmas present from me to you. And again, thank you for all your support this year. I know I don't upload as often as I would like or as often as I probably should. I'm going to try and work on that. But I will see you on Christmas Day. Bye.